eliminate the inclusion of ultra-processed ingredients from taxpayer-funded school meal programs and establish clear guidelines to ensure healthier diets for students. Our Secretary Kennedy and FDA Commissioner Marty McCary announced their plan to phase out harmful synthetic food dyes and oils by the end of 2026. This would just bring the state in line with that and start to have schools prepare to follow suit with direction from the federal government. Madam Clerk, I believe there's an amendment to take up.
Madam Clerk.
Representative Carlson offers up amendments at 3520.
Rep. Carlson.
This adds back in a couple of seed oils that were removed in committee at the request of the author. It also changes the lines that reference ultra-processed food to foods with certain ultra-processed ingredients. This was just at the request of certain industry. It also clarifies that this doesn't apply to what's in vending machines. We already have a statute that governs what can be in vending machines, and so it clarifies that.
Any questions on the amendment? Rep. Freeman for a question on the amendment.
I'm just curious, you mentioned something about vending machines, and then I see something on Amendment 6 in this amendment set that says something to do with the regular school day. A lot of schools have concession stands that sell M&Ms and fountain drinks. Does that mean if they're after school and they're running the fountain drinks, they can buy whatever sugar things they want?
So the current statute that governs vending machines applies to specific school hours, and I think it starts like 30 minutes before school to 30 minutes after. So,
but how does that affect concession stands? Because a concession stand is not a vending machine.
Correct. I'll be honest, I'd have to ask the author about that and see if we need to make any adjustments.
Well, I just want to make that point because a lot of schools do have concession stands and they don't just run them on the days of a game. They run them after school, like it's a class project to make money for whatever.
And I think that's a great point to clarify, and I'll certainly get with the author to clarify that, the intention was not to affect what's in vending machines, and I think that, this is to govern federally funded lunch programs. That's the intent of the bill and the focus of the bill. So I don't know that it would apply, but I'll certainly get with the author and clarify that if we need to go to conference and clarify the language for a concession stand or something at a football game or something like that.
Okay, and then also you mentioned something about some oils being added back in or taken away that the author asked you back. I was just trying to clarify what you meant.
That's right. So in committee, there were some questions about if we would include, as the bill originally addressed, I think, 4 seed oils, brominated vegetable oil, cottonseed oil, grapeseed oil, safflower oil, very rarely used in school lunch programs, so there was some discussion around if we actually needed to keep that in the bill or not. There are some members out, and so the amendment passed to take that out, but the author did want to include those in the bill, and that's why we included it back in this amendment.
Okay, and that's amendment number?
You're talking about today's amendment or the one in committee?
Oh, that was done in committee. Okay, sorry.
Committee.
I was trying to find it in this amendment set.
It was taken out in committee and some members were out. And so in the amendments to change ultra-processed food to foods with certain ultra-processed ingredients.
Yes, and that means like if they have the ingredients of something like what's the percentage? Like, because when you read the back of a label,
right.
Almost everything we buy at the grocery store has ultra-processed something in it.
So it's very specific to what's in this bill, and I can read through those, but it's aspartame, blue dye number 1, blue dye number 2.
Okay, that's in the bill, though. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, but that's changing, the language is changing into the ingredient, not the food, in other words. For example, Cheetos probably are completely ultra-processed food, but something else might have some real cheese in it, and I'm making that up. I don't know the answer.
No, that's right. I think there was some question of what does ultra-processed food mean, and so the bill author wanted to narrow it to
I understand.
just those ultra-processed items.
Okay.
The food might still be processed,
right.
but it shouldn't include those items.
Okay, I was just trying to clarify. Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Rep. Willard for a question on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rep. Carlson, Did I hear you say you were going to get with the author to clarify the vending machine portion of the bill?
The vending machine portion has been clarified. Let me find it for you, but there's already revised statute 17-197.1 already dictates that there's certain hours that kids can't get food from vending machines anyway. But what I'd said is that I'd get with the bill author to clarify about concession stands, at a football or basketball game, that sort of thing.
Gotcha. When would you get with the author? My understanding is this is kind of the last stop of the journey for this bill.
It can go to conference.
It can, but not if he chooses to concur
I'll tell you
in
that
House
the
amendments.
intent of this bill is to look at federally funded lunch programs. So I don't believe that the discussion of a concession stand, which is after hours, applies. But just to clarify, I will get with him just to confirm. And if we do feel that there is some conflict, I'd work with him to clarify that. This is specifically talking about a lunch program. And so I really don't think there's any issue or conflict there to begin with.
Okay. Thank you, Rep.
Thank you.
Any objections to the adoption of the amendment? Hearing no objections, the amendment is adopted. Rep. Miller, I'm sorry, you were a little late. He waves. Any objections to the adoption of the amendment? Hearing no objection, the amendment is adopted. Back on the bill.
I'd be happy to answer any additional questions you might have.
Rep. Willard for a question on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rep. Carlson, so there's still 15 ingredients that are going to be prohibited here?
Yes.
Okay. How did we decide those 15 ingredients?
I believe it was in conjunction with what the FDA is banning at the federal level in food programs.
So if the FDA bans it, wouldn't it already be banned here, or would it require a duplicate ban?
I think it's, we're not 100% sure what will happen at the federal level, but I believe the spirit and intent is to address the epidemic of obesity and some other health-related issues that are affecting our kids. And so regardless of what ultimately ends up happening, there's also a question of what can be mandated by the federal government, whether it's just a recommendation, but still looking for states to make the determination. So I believe the author said, you know what, I see the direction that's being talked about at the federal level. We're not sure what's going to happen there, or if they have the authority, or just if they provide guidance to the state. So he wanted to not wait for a year or two for that to happen, but be able to put in those guidelines now and start heading in that direction.
Okay, early on in session, I said I think it's great that this legislature and the governor wants to address childhood obesity and a healthier population in the state of Louisiana, as long as it's driven by science and data. These 15 ingredients, are they commonly found in lunches served to our kids in Louisiana schools?
I don't know that I could tell you how many of these items or how many items in school lunches they are found in, but these additives and food dyes have been linked to diabetes, obesity, ADHD, and you see in many other countries, the UK and throughout Europe, that most of these are not allowed in foods at all, let alone in our schools. And so there is, I think, a significant amount of scientific research backing up how harmful these additives are specifically for our kids.
Okay. Now, I did some research last night, and it looks like some of these ingredients are already banned. Brominated vegetable oil, I believe, is banned at the federal level.
That's right.
Can you tell me, like, pizza? Does pizza include yellow dye? Or, do you have examples of certain meals that are served to our kids that would either require an alteration to the ingredients or be prohibited from being served to our kids?
I don't have any specific meals or food items that would be prohibited, and I think that's the shift with the amendment, is that the author didn't want to focus on heavily processed foods, just these specific heavily processed additives, because you can make a pizza with red dye number 5 and you can make pizza without it. And so it wasn't to limit pizza and say you can't serve pizza in school. It was just, if you were going to make pizza, it needs to be in a little bit more healthy form.
I think I got it. So this bill would not really prohibit unhealthy foods from being served to the kids. It would just prohibit unhealthy foods becoming even more unhealthy.
Yes.
Okay. There's a provision now that requires, is it mandated that a certain percentage of the food being served comes from Louisiana?
Not in this bill. I believe there was another bill that was looking at that, but this bill doesn't address.
This bill doesn't touch on that?
No, it does
As
not.
far as the sourcing
Not to my knowledge,
component?
no. I was in committee, I didn't hear anything like that, and I've not seen anything like that in the language of the bill.
Give me a second.
This just deals with additives in the food.
So on page 3, lines 10 through 13, beginning in the 27-28 school year, any school that participates,
You're absolutely correct. Okay, so I did not say this. So 20%, it mandates that 20% of food purchased by a school is produced in Louisiana. You're correct.
okay, so how is that determined? Is that feasible to be enforced?
I mean, I haven't heard any, again, I sat through this testimony in committee. I didn't hear any group or organization come and say that this wasn't feasible or possible. So much so where when you asked the question, I didn't even remember that this was a section of the bill. It was morely focused on the additives. And so I've not heard anyone communicate that it was not possible or feasible to do that.
So I did get some emails from some Jewish schools throughout the state that are concerned that provision would make it very difficult for them to provide kosher meals to their students, mandating the 20% from Louisiana.
Are those schools, and I know I'm not supposed to ask a question, but I'm not sure, receiving are they participating in federal funding? Or are these private schools?
I mean, I would assume so, because they emailed, but I can't say for certainty. But you're right, you can't ask me questions. All right, that's all my questions. Thank you, Rep. Carlson.
Thank you. And Rep. Freeman, you had asked earlier on page 3, line 14. It says, the provisions of this section shall not apply to food served or sold in concession stands and vending machines in accordance with revised statute 17197.1. So it does not apply to concession stands or vending machines.
The member is out of time. I would move that the member be extended 10 additional minutes. There are 6 more people in the queue without objection, so ordered. Representative Newell for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Representative Carlson, don't hold your head like that. I'm going to be easy with my question.
Rep. Newell.
I'm great in yourself. Considering there are studies that show that trying to meet these guidelines provided, let's say, less appetizing or less appealing meals to the students, and workers saw students throwing out the meals, how are we going to address school feeding programs trying to meet the nutritional needs of kids and providing them with food that they're actually going to eat, as well as meeting these new traditional guidelines within their allocated budget, their budget allotment for each meal? How are we looking at addressing that? Number one, an appealing and appetizing meal for the children, and 2, meals that meet these new nutritional guidelines but also fall within the allocated budget allotment for the breakfast and lunch.
So I would say I don't think there's going to be an issue with schools providing appetizing meals just by removing a few of these ingredients. Maybe it doesn't look exactly the same, but very few of these actually have to do with the taste of the meal. It has to do with the color of the meal, maybe the consistency, but I don't know how many years it's been. I'm sure it's only been a couple, but when I was in school, they didn't have any programs like this, and we were still tossing out food that we didn't like or anything like that. So, but I knew when I was hungry, I would eat any meal that was put before me. And so I'm not too concerned about that. I think this is taking out things that, again, don't affect the taste so much as have a negative effect on our students.
Well, and I get what you're saying if you're hungry, and then we do know that most of the time the only nutritious meal a child gets is the one they receive at school.
Absolutely.
But there have been studies that show that the children have been tossing the foods because the look, the texture of it isn't appealing. So I just wanted to know what we're going to do with that.
Well, you said earlier, you said the goal is to provide a nutritious meal to our students. That's
But
what
it
this bill is. That's what this bill is focused on: is taking out harmful ingredients that aren't providing nutrition to our students.
But then when you go to going back,
Let's keep this a question and answer, please.
when you're going back and trying to change, how are we looking at the allotment, the budgetary allotment for the schools in providing these meals? Because when you're going from processed, you'll likely have to go to maybe cooking from scratch. So that's going to change the cost. Are we looking at that? Has that been discussed?
I haven't seen any data that would show that this provides any type of burden or is not feasible within the school's budget, and that's reflected in the fiscal note, that there could be some adjustments, but there wasn't anything substantial or measurable in that, and so there's really no data on that.
And the reason why I asked that is because there have been studies across, and with some of the schools have changed from a cooking from scratch kitchen model to one that provides foods that are faster to prepare. So I'm looking, how are we going to work with these schools so that if they reconfigured their kitchen from scratch to more of a quick cook, and now we're asking them to go back to something more similar to cooking from scratch, are we prepared financially to help these schools get these full commercial kitchens again? Those kitchens range from like $15,000 to $250,000. Are we prepared for that?
So I don't believe we're going to have to ask our kitchens to revamp what they're doing. All we're saying is that even if you are utilizing highly processed foods or quickly prepared meals, they just can't include these 15 ingredients. It doesn't say you have to go back to cooking from scratch or anything like that. And so I don't think there's going to need to be any reconfiguring.
And the reason I brought that up, because most of the foods that are cooked without these, that are cooked quickly, have some of these ingredients in it. That is why I was focusing my concern. And with this change, I'm glad we're going back and looking at what our former First Lady, Let's Move, Getting Our Children Healthy, on Michelle Obama. I'm glad we're going back to this, but how is this legislation going to impact our charter schools? And I'm asking particularly because New Orleans, all our schools are charter, and if you're prohibiting what they can buy, how is this going to impact those charter schools? And they do provide free lunch.
Gotcha. So this applies to all public schools that are participating in a federal lunch program. So if that charter school is participating in that, it would apply. If they are not, then it wouldn't apply.
I don't think that that's what this bill says. But have you discussed the prematurity of this bill? Are you aware that Rep. Echols also has a study to look at what this would look like in our schools and try to see how many schools would have to reconfigure their kitchens if we're going towards this, how much the cost is going to be? Do you not see that this bill is premature? I know it's not your bill, but have you talked to the author to talk about this as being premature, since we do have a study in place?
So I don't see this bill as premature. There is a study resolution for this, but this doesn't apply until the 27-28 school year. So not even this year coming up in August, but the following year, so it gives time for that study resolution to run its course. And if we need to adjust this or pivot, we still have time to be able to do this. But if we are going to move forward with this, it forecasts to the schools what they need to start working on, and it gives them enough time to prepare for these changes.
I don't see us having enough time to provide for the proper appropriations for these schools after we get the results from Rep. Echols' study and to then implement this without really having the time to digest the information that we have before we put this burden on
Representative
our
Newell,
schools.
do you have a question?
Did you know? Thank you so much, Rep. Carlson. Thank you, Speaker Pro Tem.
Thank you, Rep. Newell.
Representative Miller for a question. Representative Freeman for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Representative Carlson, I read the bill that charters are not included, and I actually asked staff that question. So maybe we both need to sit down and talk to staff, because charters are we have one school that's not a charter in Orleans, but
So I'm reading from the bill, page 3, line 10, beginning in the 27-28 school year, any public school that participates in a federally funded or assisted meal program or any non-public school that receives state or federal funding shall ensure that a minimum of 20, okay, that's just that section. I thought it applied to,
charters are written very specifically into our statutes. I just know from sitting on education for 4 years, I still have a question whether charters are included in here, based on my conversation with staff. So I think you and the author should probably look into that. But if a parochial or a private school is receiving federal funds, then they also would be subject to this?
for their meal program. So it is on page 2, line 3.
Okay.
And it talks about beginning in the 27-28 school year, any city, parish, or other local public school board that participates in our assisted meal program, or any non-public school that receives state or federal funding, shall not sell or serve, nor allow a third party to sell or serve. And he goes on to describe those items.
Okay, so if you are a school that accepts Louisiana Gator students and you have federal funding for your meals for some students, then this would apply to your entire population who's eating
My
there.
understanding is that this applies to those taking money for a meal program.
Right, and I happen to know a lot about how the meal programs work, just some work that I did in my previous term. Often, a lot of schools do have meal plan funding, whether they're private, parochial, or public. It's not just for the public. That's my...
So I said any school board, any city, parish, or
Okay.
school board that participates in a federally funded or assisted meal program.
Okay, and then I read the fiscal note, and I'm really curious as to how there can be no increase in funding, because that's not what the note says, but it seems like it's a confusing note.
It says that there's unknown variables that we don't know, and so that's part of why Rep. Echols' study resolution is important, but it says that there's too many variables to be able to tell. They might be able to save money by getting foods that don't have these highly processed ingredients in it.
Okay, potentially, but I'm not sure. I wasn't in appropriations the day it came before appropriations. Is this subject to appropriation at all, or is this going to go into effect with or without
I
appropriation?
was in education. I'm not sure if this went before appropriations or not.
Oh, you're not? Okay, I'm not sure if it did. Okay. And then finally, I think I would ask for you and the author to consider why did you not include concession stands and vending machines? And why are we not including some sort of education for the students who bring lunch? Because if I'm fighting my kid at home about what to eat and not to eat, and they just bring a Lunchable, I'm defeating the whole purpose of this bill.
Well, if you're bringing a Lunchable, that's your choice as a parent to send your kid to school with a Lunchable. And the reason why this doesn't affect vending machines or concession stands is because that is not your meal for the day. We're talking about a school lunch program. We're talking about could be one main meal for the day. We want to make sure that it's as nutritious as possible for our students. And so going to a concession stand is optional. It might be something that you do if you go to a game, and so the focus was not on that. The focus is on that one main meal that a student could be receiving for the day to make it as nutritious as possible.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Rep. Desatel for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I just want to, I've heard this discussion and some of the debate, and I've gotten some emails from back home, and I just want to make sure to get on the record some of the things, some of these questions. So who created the list of these things that we're banning?
I would assume it would be the bill author.
So did he consider any other things that, I mean, if you Google, there's a whole host of other things, and I'm just kind of concerned, did our State Department weigh in on this and say, this is what we think, or how did that work?
So I think the intention was to focus on those items that have shown negative influences or impacts on our kids' health, but also didn't go so far to ban every ingredient to the point that I think one of the other reps made earlier, where it completely eliminates 90% of what's being served in the schools. And so it was trying to strike that balance between those heavily processed items and then also what is actually practical and reasonable to be able to implement in our schools. Some of these, I couldn't find examples of if they were, so it was just, I'm not saying that they even are, a couple of these. It's to ensure that they're not in the future being offered as well.
Okay, so the author did this. This is not a recommendation from Department of Education or anybody.
I did not hear recommendations from the department on this.
So, and my school back home is concerned for a couple reasons. One, they do not cook food in their cafeteria. They sub that service out to another vendor who shows up to the school and then gives the the meals out to the students. And they're concerned, how are they going to monitor and make sure that these meals meet this requirement?
Well, I think it gives them enough time because we're not going into effect for not this school year, but coming up, but next, that's something that they can work out in their contract with whoever's providing food.
But I think the question is this going to open them up to something? In other words, are they going to have to police this and make sure that the vendor doesn't maybe inadvertently send something over? How does that mechanism work? Who's going to be responsible? Is the Department of Education going to send an inspector, or?
I think the school would be responsible to ensure that whether they're providing the meal or if they're contracting that service out, that the food being provided complies with the law.
So did we look at what that fiscal note would be by adding this burden to the school?
I don't think there's any fiscal note to say in the contract that they sign for the upcoming school year or 2 years from now to say the food that you provide can include these 15 ingredients.
So you also, in the bill, are saying that 20% has to be sourced from Louisiana. Do you think that that's going to add a cost? Is that in the amendment?
So the portion that requires the 20% come from Louisiana was amended out in House Education.
Well, I just looked at the re-engrossed version, and it doesn't say that.
So we don't engross the changes for the opposite house when it comes through committee, but in committee, that section was amended out. So that's why I was misunderstood when I was saying what I thought I remembered from committee to Rep. Willard's point. So it would read this now. Any, starting on page 3, line 10, any public school that participates in a federally funded or assisted meal program or any non-public school that receives state or federal funding shall, to the extent practicable, purchase food purchased in Louisiana, subject to an appropriation by the legislature for such purpose.
So I guess I got two points. One, that's why we need a new system in this legislature.
I agree.
Because that I should not have to go back and look at that amendment to read the reimbursed.
You should not.
But regardless, I think there's a lot of other questions I have, and I think some other members do. Would you mind temporarily returning this so we could talk to the author and you and I, and we could sit down and answer a few questions?
I'll let you guys talk right now. I'll continue to answer questions. If we still haven't answered all of our questions, then I'll take that consideration if that's okay. Because there's a lot of other questions. I'd like to be able to answer those other members' questions.
So are you saying you would return it? so we can get these things,
I would like to make that decision after answering the other.
just to kind of cool off and make sure that everybody's on the same page before we take a vote, make sure we all understand. I think there's some misinformation that we've been talking about. We just came up with the 20%, and I think there's some other things that, we just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and this is a good bill, because this is the last step. If this bill, you do know that if this bill passes out of this chamber,
Well, it still has to go back to the Senate for concurrence.
for concurrence, but then if he concurs,
If you'd give me the opportunity, I'd love to be able to answer any other questions because most of the members were not in Education Committee. I'd love to be able to answer their questions while you have a chance to talk to the bill author, and then I can, if we need to, I'd return it to the calendar at that time.
okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, members, the member's out of time. Is there any objections to granting an additional 5 minutes? You waving? There is an objection to granting an additional 5 minutes. All those in favor of granting an additional 5 minutes, vote yea. Those opposed, vote nay. Madam Clerk, please open machines. Members, vote your machine. This is for additional time. Rep. Carlson, yea. Rep. Cruz, nay. Rep. Farnham, nay. Carver, nay. Butler, yea. Members, are you through voting? We have 49 yeas, 39 nays. And the motion fails. All right, so the member is out of time.
That was in March. Well, I just got this in.
Rep. Carlson,
So I'm confused about
do you want to close on the bill?
I just need to get it straight.
Can I return it to the calendar temporarily?
Yes.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, next bill. Without. Members, I just want to remind you, if you do have questions, right now would be a decent time to go ask the bill author questions on the bill. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Speaker and members, at this time, Representative Furman moves to return to the calendar Senate Bill 136, giving notice to call that instrument on Wednesday, the 28th.
Without objection.
Senate Bill 154 by Senator Morris provides relative to Uniform Control Dangerous Substances Law to add 7-hydroxymitragynine and mitragynine to Schedule 1, prohibit the possession, production, distribution of kratom, provide for definitions and penalties.
Rep. Villio?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, gas station heroin or legal morphine, also known as kratom's road to dominance, is cloaked in deception. Kratom companies aren't allowed to make medical claims about their products because the herb is not an approved drug, but the vendors routinely do so. Low doses creates a stimulant effect. High doses, kratom bonds to the opioid receptors. It's highly addictive. Kratom can lead to overdose with symptoms ranging from nausea and vomiting to seizures, coma, and death. It can cause psychosis. It has been linked to liver damage. Hospitals are reporting babies being born addicted. The FDA has warned of neonatal abstinence syndrome, in which newborns experience withdrawal signs such as jitteriness, irritability, and muscle stiffness following prolonged exposure to kratom prior to birth. Kratom products have been found to have heavy metals, such as lead, and harmful germs, such as salmonella, in them, which can be found to be fatal. I have had my neighbors sitting on the side who lost their son, 41 years old, to kratom in December. I stand here for them and all of the families who have written in the emails much like them, who have suffered that same loss. I know that probably many of you have received any number of emails from people begging you that kratom's just this wonderful thing and it saved their lives. Members, it's just another addiction. I'm sorry. It's one form of addiction to another. We are losing our babies. We are losing our children. Our convenience stores, our gas stations are loaded with this bad, bad stuff, and I see members shaking their heads. We have any number of countries who have banned it. The kratom leaf from Southeast Asia is banned in Southeast Asia. They're importing it to us. That's just the realities. We have states who have already banned it. We have parishes who have already banned it. I am imploring you to stand with Senator Morris, to stand with me on this bill, and vote to ban kratom.
Rep. Jordan for a question on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rep. Villio, look, I've had people talk to me about this, and frankly, kratom is one of those things that I know very little about, but I have done some reading. So my question is, what is the difference, or is there a difference between the leaf, the tea, and the synthetic version?
There is no synthetic version, Rep. Jordan, and thank you for the question. You might see an amendment that talks about synthetic kratom. It's an insult to all of us. When I saw an amendment like that, another member was going to bring it, and I said, tell the lobbyist who gave you that, I may have been born at night, but I wasn't born last night. Because in effect, what we would be banning is a product that doesn't exist. The reality is the leaf itself can be adulterated. It's not synthetic. It's just by virtue of heat, by virtue of lighting, etc.
But it can be processed in such a way.
Can become the very, very dangerous kratom that is on the market. The leaf itself also, there is no known, we don't know what dosage you can take that leaf safely, but there is no synthetic kratom.
All right. The other question is, and I'm not sure if you were privy to reading I guess there was an article, I want to say it was The Advocate, but don't hold me to that spoke of veterans, military veterans that were using kratom as a relief and saying it was less addictive than opioids or what have you. Are you familiar with that at all?
I've seen some articles. Listen, it's not less addictive. It's highly addictive. In the low doses, it has a stimulative effect. In the high doses, it bonds to your opioid receptors. I know some people think that it makes them better. I just tell you that it's not safe. It's absolutely not safe, and it's being marketed. These are bad actors. I'm not talking about the veterans. I'm talking about the individuals who are marketing this. And they go to other state legislators and they tell them, oh, such and such state rescinded their ban. Absolute lie when they do that. They come to our state and say things like this. It's a lot of money. I think I heard something like $1.5 billion a year. We're talking about a lot of money. But the reality is there's no dose that's known currently to be safe. And the stuff that's on the market is highly dangerous.
No, look, again, I can just tell you just a little bit I've read. But here are my few other questions on this. If we ban it in any form, whether I understand you're saying the synthetic doesn't exist, but in any form, natural, some other process, would we still be able to go to our neighboring states? Because it's my understanding that you could go to Mississippi, you could go to Arkansas, you can even go to Texas, and you would still be able to get it, and also get it online. But if we criminalize it here, I'm assuming even if you got it online, that would be a crime. But could you go to the other states?
You can't go to Arkansas. Arkansas banned it.
Okay.
You can go to some states, but you can't go to
Mississippi and Texas?
They're not on the list of bans as yet.
All right. So if I'm certainly not advocating for this, but if one wanted to go an hour to Woodville, Mississippi, use the kratom and then come back, that would be, it wouldn't be illegal. Let me ask you
Not
this.
for them to go to another state and get it and use it, but, I can't advocate for people to go do that.
I'm not advocating
Yeah,
either.
sure.
I'm just asking the
But in
question.
the states that it's legal, they can go to that state, and they can get it, and they can use it in that state. If we ban it here, now listen, possession here, it's by weight, but if this bill passed and someone was caught to be in possession of a small amount of kratom, it's a $100 fine. We're not talking about, serious penalties on possession, but we are talking about penalties on the manufacture and distribution of kratom in the state. if we pass this legislation.
All right, so that's what I was going to ask you. So, Pender, you just answered one of my questions. So, simple possession of kratom just would be basically a civil fine of $100,
$100 fine, yes.
even if it's multiple possessions. So, first offense, second offense, doesn't matter.
We have some, it's dependent upon weight, Rep. Jordan, so 20 grams or less would be a $100 fine. First conviction, if it's more than 20 grams, it would be a misdemeanor. Second conviction, if it's more than 20 grams, it would be in prison not more than 6 months or a $1,000 fine.
All right. And I assume it enhances as you go forward.
That's where we stopped, on a second or subsequent conviction. That's
Okay.
the highest, a
All right.
misdemeanor.
All right, and so you really are looking for the folks who manufacture and distribute kratom. That's the
Absolutely.
main. And so, what is the penalty for that?
The penalty for manufacture and distribution is a felony penalty, and again, it's based on weight. So if it's an aggregate weight of less than 500 grams, it's not more than $50,000, and with or without hard labor for not less than a year, not more than 3 years. 500 grams or more, it's 1 to 5 years.
All right. So that sounds like a lot, but I mean, we're talking about less than 2 pounds?
Yeah, well, I'm not great on math, I'll tell you.
I think if my
500
math-
Somebody would have to convert 500 grams.
If my math, I don't remember exactly, but I think they're like 343 grams in a pound or
One
something
of
like
our
that.
engineers probably knows that.
So we're talking about less than 2 pounds, which is not a lot of weight, but I understand the serious nature of potentially it could cause. So thank you. I just really had some questions about it. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Rep. Domain for a question on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thanks, Rep. Villio, for bringing this.
Thank you.
Have you spoken to any substance abuse counselors about how they feel about kratom or what's their opinions on kratom?
I have spoken to some, more of a private conversation where they're caught between the world of maybe a patient who somehow thinks they're benefiting from it and family members who are suffering greatly because of their child, their loved one, et cetera, just another form of addiction. So certainly the views vary a little bit, but I can tell you, haven't talked to many that tell me, rah, let's keep kratom on the market. I can tell you that.
Well, I work at a clinic, and I've spoken to a substance abuse counselor at my clinic who's explained to me that she's adamantly opposed to kratom. So I just wanted that to be on the record as well, that I have spoken to a substance abuse counselor who is opposed to kratom, and especially the dangers that it provides to teenagers who can have access to kratom as well. So thank you so much.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Rep. Hughes for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chairwoman Villio, I will admit I was not really familiar with kratom prior to this debate in the legislature, so I started doing some research. You've already said on the record that studies have shown that kratom can be highly addictive. One study from research that I found that said individuals addicted to kratom exhibited psychotic symptoms, including hallucinations, delusion, and confusion. As a former prosecutor, do you feel that that's a public safety risk if somebody is not in control of their body?
It's absolutely a public safety risk. Rep. Hughes, I've actually seen individuals testify, and in all fairness to them, they're testifying, I believe, sincerely, that they think kratom has made a difference in their life because, say, they're now off of heroin. And the reality is that, and now they're addicted to kratom, which is very dangerous.
Chairwoman Villio, I'm now shifting to a study from the Mayo Clinic. Are you aware that the Food and Drug Administration has warned people not to use kratom because of the possible harm that it may cause? And also, are you aware that the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration calls kratom, quote, a drug of concern?
Absolutely. That FDA just issued another warning recently, as I recall.
Chairwoman Villio, are you aware that poison control centers in the United States received more than 3,400 reports about the use of kratom, and several of these included reports of death?
I am aware of that.
Are you also aware, Chairwoman Villio, according to research, studies have found many safety issues, that kratom also interacts negatively with other prescribed medications, thus causing severe liver damage or, in many cases, death?
Absolutely. That's absolutely correct.
And finally, Chairwoman Villio, are you aware that according to studies and research that kratom has had a negative effect on pregnant women and has caused harm to babies?
I am aware of that as well.
I appreciate your leadership, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Rep. Hughes. And Rep. Jordan, 453 grams equals a pound, thanks to our engineer, Rep. Gadberry.
Speaker Pro Tem Mike Johnson for a question.
Chairman Villio, I'm just looking at all the side effects. I understand a lot of people believe it is helpful to them.
Some people do.
But I've also seen the letters from families who've lost family members through
You have
suicide.
a family
and
sitting
various
right
things.
behind you.
Yes. How easy is it to get this substance?
Simple. Speaker Pro Tem Johnson, in fact, one of the members said he had never heard of kratom, and all of a sudden he's standing in a gas station and sees all of it at the counter, right there,
You can just
available.
buy it with all the other stuff that's up there?
Just all ready to go. Grab it and go.
We do have age restrictions that are supposed to be imposed, is that right?
Well, you're not going to have drug age restrictions on kratom because kratom is not a drug.
So anybody can
It's
go
not
on?
been approved as a drug. And so you've got these bad actors who are taking advantage of that, and that's why it's called legal morphine. Sometimes this kratom has effects 17 to 40 times greater than morphine. And that's the realities of what we're selling in our gas stations to anyone who wants to buy it.
And how affordable is that to buy over the counter?
I am not sure what the cost, that is, you got
Someone
me on
hand-
that one. I wish I had that answer, I don't know.
Someone handed me something that said they were able to get it for free, the ad online that actually said for free, and they sent in and they actually got it for free.
They are correct.
Now, what would be the hook to do that?
To get addicted, obviously, to get you addicted to the product because it is highly addictive.
And am I correct when I read that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has warned people not to use kratom?
Absolutely has. Recent warning again.
And the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration calls kratom a drug of concern?
Very much so, yes.
And it's not technically considered a drug.
And it's not technically considered an herb, which they're making medical claims that this is a diet supplement, an herb. And they're not allowed to make those medical claims because it is not approved by the FDA as that type of dietary supplement. But the bad actors selling this stuff don't care. And where it's coming from, they ban it. So it comes from Southeast Asia, it's banned there. They're just importing it here to destroy our...
So the people that make it ban it in their own country?
Absolutely.
Wonder why they do that.
I don't think you have to wonder long. It's dangerous, it's addictive.
If this bill is passed and signed, then it'll prohibit folks from being able to buy this at service stations and gas stations and...
Everywhere here in Louisiana. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The member is out of time. We got some amendments. Madam Clerk.
Representative Amity offers up a two-page set of amendments, set number 3476.
Rep. Amity on your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If the young lady who's paging today could bring the notes up here to me. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had just printed some notes. Okay, members, the amendment that I'm bringing today is an attempt to make it so that the natural plant is not something we're banning. I asked the drafters to create for me an amendment that could still ban any enhanced or synthesized version of kratom, but not the plant. It's a plant. And the reason I wanted to do that is because if we're going to ban the natural plant, then people who do find a use for it will not be able to access it unless and until Big Pharma creates something from it. And by the time Big Pharma does that, it will have who knows what kinds of side effects, and it will cost a lot. When we ban a plant, something that a person could theoretically grow on their own and make use of without a bunch of dangerous additives, I think that we are limiting people's access to things that could help. And I know we've heard a lot already today about how this is a useless plant, a dangerous plant. It doesn't help anybody, but that's not what I'm hearing. And yes, I got some of the same emails from people who apparently just want to get high. And you know me, I'm not going to come up here and support something that's just for frivolous high. If you have a lifestyle where things are so terrible that you just have to escape all the time, then come see me. Let's talk. We'll find a way to help you find some ways to deal with your stresses in life where you're not constantly looking for a way to escape in ways that can cause danger to you or to others. The people that I have heard from are people who have things like chronic pain after back surgeries. Or what about a mom who's got a college-age student that she has helped through suffering from opioid addictions? If that mom has been able to take some leaf of a plant and somehow make a tea from it that has helped her child overcome an opioid addiction, if we pass this bill making that illegal, that mom will go to jail, because that mom is not going to stop and allow her child to go back to the condition he was in when he was hooked on opioids. So I bring this amendment to simply take out the natural plant. And it includes penalties that are even stronger than what's in the current bill. So I ask for your favorable passage of the amendment. Thank you.
Rep. Hughes for a question on the amendment. Rep. Amade, you have a question on the amendment? You waive? She waives questions. Rep. Hughes for the floor on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What I wanted to ask my friend, Representative Amade, because the argument that she made is that we should allow the natural leaf of kratom because it is a plant. It's grown, it's natural. Well, I just wanted to ask my friend, marijuana is a plant. It's natural. So I want to know, should we also legalize marijuana because it's a natural plant? So that's question number one. But the important part to remember here, when you look at research, when you look at the number of people that have died, that have been admitted to the hospital, it doesn't matter if the kratom is synthetic or if the kratom is a natural leaf, the addiction is the same. This is still highly addictive, causing people to be psychotic with hallucinations, and has very negative and harmful effects. So I think adopting this amendment will still put individuals at a gross public safety risk. And if we're going to adopt this amendment, then I think we're setting a precedent that we need to make marijuana legal. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, members, Representative Amade has offered up a set of amendments. Any objections to the adoption of the amendments? Rep. Villio?
Object.
Rep. Villio?
Object. For
Okay.
the very reasons we talked about, I would object. And again, there's no such thing as synthetic kratom. That's one of the very type of amendments. I said I may have been born at night, but I wasn't born at last night. So basically, they want you, whatever lobbyists are behind it, and whatever industry members, bad actors are behind it, they want us to create a legislation that is essentially unenforceable. For those reasons, I would object.
Rep. Amade, would you like to close on your amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Synthetic kratom does exist. It's not the same as natural kratom that's derived from the, and I'm going to attempt to pronounce it, Mitragyna speciosa plant. Synthetic versions primarily involve semi-synthetic or fully synthetic analogs of kratom's key alkaloids, mitragynine and some other stuff I can't pronounce, that are created in laboratories to mimic or enhance the plant's effects. So it does exist. There are semi-synthetic kratom products, adulterated products, fully synthetic analogs, so they exist. So all my amendment is an attempt to do is to keep just the plant available, so that people who practice holistic type care will still have access without being criminals. Thank you.
Members, Representative Amade has offered up a set of amendments to Senator Morris's bill, which Representative Villio has objected to. All those in favor of the amendment vote yea. All those opposed vote nay. Madam Clerk, please open machines and members vote your machine. Villio, no. Davis, no. I can't see you back in the corner. Mac, is that Mac? No. No, that's DeWitt. I'm sorry, DeWitt. No. We can't see you. Members, are you through voting? The clerk will close the machine. We have 13 yeas, 80 nays, and the amendment fails. Next amendment, Madam Clerk.
Representative Egan offers up amendments at 3496.
Rep. Egan on your amendment.
I think Rep. Villio thinks this is rather funny at this point. Or trying to perform Mission Impossible. My amendment is somewhat similar to Rep. Amade's, but it does have some differences. But I do want to begin by saying that it was intimated that I was carrying the amendment for the industry per se, or for a lobbyist. I can tell you to right now, I do not know who or what the industry is, and I was not approached by a lobbyist. I did speak to a lobbyist in order to get the name and contact of one of the people who testified in Rep. Villio's committee. And that was the only access that I had to lobbyists. So I am absolutely not speaking to you right now for the industry or for any lobbyist. I will also tell you that if there was a potentially reasonable or appropriate way of reintroducing prohibition, I would probably support it. And I know Danny is going to come at me right now for human freedom and all of that. I understand all of that. I respect all of that. But in the spirit of detoxifying America, I think that would not necessarily be a bad thing. So I certainly do not in any way support any levels of drug use, intoxication, or anything therewith. That certainly is not why I'm here. A lot of what was presented in association with this bill was based on some tragic losses experienced primarily by parents, which I can think of no greater tragedy in life than the loss of a child. And I certainly, absolutely commiserate with everybody who has to deal with that. I know I've been there, I've seen it in many, many instances, how tragic that is. It is, I think, to me, the most painful thing that a person can endure. I don't believe that aggrieved emotion is a good basis for making law. It's simply not. Civilized society does not allow that. Happens in Afghanistan, but that's not how we operate here. So while I absolutely feel like their losses need to be recognized, I think that the underlying reasons also need to be evaluated rationally and appropriately. Kratom it's a partial opioid agonist. It certainly does stimulate the opioid receptors in the brain. It is in many ways similar to other opioids. My language, not quite as aggressive. It is simply not. It produces a product, and I think Rep. Villieu has spoken to this rather eloquently, 7-hydroxymetragenine. Now, naturally occurring kratom does have that element. But an analogy as to how this works would be somewhat similar to electricity. I don't know if you've ever had the experience of touching a live wire in a plug or in a light socket. It gives you a zap. Doesn't kill you. Doesn't really hurt you. But if you run that same electricity through a transformer, what it essentially does, it ramps it up to where what comes out the other side will kill you, will blow you away. And what happens with naturally occurring kratom is rather similar to that. It is ramped up, and what is frequently available, and what is not frequently, what is totally available in gas stations is, by and large, for the most part, the ramped up version. And I totally agree with Rep. Villieu. It's toxic, it's dangerous, and it needs to be banned. And we're fully concurrent on Rep. Villieu's bill relative to that. It should come out of the gas stations. As far as some of the things that Rep. Hughes listed, as far as some of the tragic outcomes related to the ramped up kratom, I would propose to Rep. Hughes and to everybody else, it happens a whole lot more frequently with alcohol. Go in a gas station right now. You could soak in a bath, you could even drown in how much alcohol is available in pretty much any gas station right now. So we have an issue, and going back to what I said about prohibition, we do have an issue, there's no question about it. And it's been said that the Communist East in the past have said that they're going to capture America without firing a single shot. They would do it by infiltration with communism. But they also said that they would do it with drugs. I worry about what that whole gas station phenomenon, because alcohol, kratom, there's a lot more stuff in the gas stations. Go to one of them. You'll find a lot more stuff. In fact, last year, I had a bill passed through here, and in fact, it was passed through the Senate and signed by the governor, banning a product called tianeptine. Tianeptine is also an opiate-related product that was prolific in gas stations, a very, very dangerous product, and that was my bill that banned it last year. So I am certainly for eliminating toxic, dangerous substances from gas stations. But the naturally occurring leaf-based kratom is consumed by an estimated 300,000 Louisianians. I would propose to you that there's probably somebody in this body right now that consumes it. I know that you all had probably hundreds of emails. I've had hundreds of emails. I've had lots of calls. In fact, my assistant just texted me to say that she continues to have calls this morning on this. These are not bad people. These are not people that we should be criminalizing. Just because we can, we should not criminalize good people. These are good people. I think the people that have testified in Rep. Villiers' committee, I think she will agree with me, they're good people. And I will tell you this about addiction. An addict will go to any length to find whatever it is that that addict needs to satisfy the addiction. And I will equate opioid addiction to putting a plastic bag over your head, and your urge to breathe is not that difficult or not that different from having an opiate withdrawal need. It's one of the most horrible things in the world to watch that. So that an opiate addict will go anywhere to get an opiate, and they will go for the ramped up kratom. They will also take regular kratom if that's what's available. And certainly, anecdotally, it's been said that it oftentimes saves an addict's life because instead of getting fentanyl, they will get kratom and do with that, for the time being, possibly saving their lives. That does happen. You've received a lot of communication from veterans. A lot of veterans depend on leaf kratom. And here's the major difference between people that use naturally occurring leaf kratom and those that use the ramped up, adulterated version. Those that use leaf kratom want to live normal, stable lives. Those that use the ramped up version are addicted to drugs, and they're satisfying an addicted need. So I would ask you today to consider that the people who want to be sober, who want to live normal lives, many of them, possibly, I don't know, it's hypothesized that over 300,000 in Louisiana use it to maintain normal, stable lives. I would sincerely ask you to think of that. We have drive-through daiquiris. We had the same treatment of marijuana not all that long ago. Right now,
Rep. Egan.
the state is in the weed business.
Rep. Egan, you're out of time on your amendment. Is there any objections to granting an additional 1 minute?
I don't need additional time.
No,
Good, please.
Is there any objections to granting an additional 1 minute? Here are no objections. You have an additional 1 minute. Rep. Glorioso for a question on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rep. Egan, the active ingredient in this that you mentioned earlier,
7-hydroxymetragenine.
So does your amendment put a limit on how much of that can be in what's sold? Is that what it does?
My amendment would allow whatever grows up on the plant in that leaf, which is, my language, a trace amount. Yes, it is what's there, what gives people the change of feeling that they get by using the regular kratom tea. However, it will ban any modulation of that, any adulteration of that, anything other than what comes off of the natural plant should be banned, period.
And you feel, I know that, you have a background in the medical field, and when you and I had a discussion about this, you feel the way your amendment is drafted, that the only thing that's available will be the, to use a common language, like low-dose version, that's...
That which is naturally occurring, period. That's what the amendment states, only that which is a naturally occurring, coming from the plant, that it can be ground up, pulverized, whatever, in order to be in a consumable fashion.
Okay, thank you.
Rep. Spell.
Hello? Thank you. Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Rep. Egan. Question on your amendment. Are there any age parameters in regards to the access to, I'm going to just call it pure form Creighton for right now?
Regret, not in the amendment. However, I would totally support having an age limit of probably 18, maybe 21 to match alcohol. I would be totally comfortable with that, and I would also support a very strong labeling requirement. I think that possibly those would be accommodated in rulemaking. I'm not expert enough to say how it should be accomplished, but I would totally support and, in fact, deem those as being necessary. I do not think that kids should have access to anything like this.
Okay. Thank you.
Rep. Fontenot for the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I debated if I wanted to come down here as I listened to Representative Egan's testimony, but he gives you this story about two different scenarios about electricity, one that zaps you and one that ramps you up. And his amendment would take away the ramp up, but allow it to be legal to still zap you, if that makes any sense in your brain. But I'm going to share something with you with only a few of you know. He's talking about medicating yourself. You're self-medicating. Well, on May 1st of last year, while we were in this chamber, I walked up to the speaker and I said, Mr. Speaker, I got to leave. My brother just died. You know why he died? Because he was addicted to something. Not kratom, but he tried to find a way to self-medicate himself without getting proper health. Every day, Knox, Joy, they came to my brother's funeral. I asked Denisha today, you had a good weekend? She said, I did. How was your mother? Every day she asked me, how's my mother? Because in my mother's brain, she can't understand why she couldn't stop him from addiction. It's a disease. I'm sitting next to counselors. It's a disease, and when you let people go to the gas station to medicate themselves, that's the wrong vote to take. That is truly the wrong vote to take. Now, we could say this has known medical use, but that's not what the amendment says. If it has known medical use, there's a place in the law to put it, right? There's a reason why you come up here and say it's natural and it's herbal use. But what he doesn't tell you is the number one distributor of herbs in the world is GNC. The place where you go buy all of your herbal stuff, and they refuse to sell this. That's why they are telling you that this is bad and you can't medicate yourself. And I'm telling you, I promise you, that's why my younger brother lost his life, because he tried to seek ways outside of true medicine to heal his brain. And in the end, he got to go visit his maker while we was in last session. I'd ask that you vote this amendment down and support this bill.
Rep. Fontenot, will you take a question? He waves. All right, members, Representative Egan has offered up an amendment. Revilio?
I object on this amendment, and Rep. Glorioso, the reason you didn't get an answer from Rep. Egan is because the naturally occurring leaves contain its two main chemical components are the mitragonine and the 7-hydroxymitragonine. And to compare this to alcohol is insane. I object.
Rep. Egan, will you take a question on closing? Rep. Robbie Carter for a question.
Representative Egan, you say you can take it in a natural form. Do you mean you're going to smoke it?
No.
What do you mean? What are they going to do with it?
If you read the amendment, it describes pretty much from where you take it off the tree to getting it somewhat in a consumable version, and it talks about drying, cutting, milling, grinding, or other mechanized size reductions. So essentially you get it into a powder. And to be honest with you, I've never taken it, so I would not be a consumption expert.
Okay, members, Representative Egan has offered up a set of amendments to Senator Morris's bill, which Representative Villio has objected to. All those in favor of the amendment vote yea. All those opposed vote nay. Madam Clerk, please open machines. Members, vote your machine. Villio, no. Members, vote your machine. Members, vote your machine. Bayham, no. Members, are you through voting? The clerk will close the machine. We have 16 yeas, 72 nays, and the amendment fails. Back on the bill, Rep. Carrier for a question on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rep. Villio, have you talked to your sheriffs and chiefs of police and preachers about this drug?
Absolutely. Sheriffs testified.
Well, and I'm involved in, you got me?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I'm involved in addiction centers in my district, 2 or 3 of them. And I tell you what, this drug is a horrible drug. And I don't know about the plants and all that other stuff, but it's killed a lot of people and a lot of crimes are committed because of this drug. And it's so accessible, it makes it crazy. So I support your bill 100%.
Thank you so much, Rep.
Sure.
Rep. Gabe for the floor. Representative Furman for the floor.
I know who you're talking about. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'm going to make this quick. I ran this bill 2 years ago, and I did so because my sheriff came to me and he said, hey, I want you to meet with somebody. And I met with a lady in my district named Laura Pate. And when I met with Miss Pate, this is what she gave me. This is a death certificate for her grandson, Tyler Davis, who is 25 years old. Actually was a resident of Oils Parish at the time of his death. The death certificate lists the cause of death, the sole cause of death, as mitragynine overdose. I want to take this opportunity to apologize to Ms. Pate and to all the families who have lost loved ones since 2023, when because of the overwhelming opposition, I decided not to go forward with it. I don't know how many families that is, how many young people with their whole lives in front of them that we've lost in those 2 years, but we've got a chance now to make it right, to prevent more young people from losing their lives. Representative Turner, hey, this is tough, huh? He's brought a bill before. I used a lot of his information. I know I've sent Senator Morris a lot of information as well, and hey, it's tougher to get this bill passed than just about anything I've worked on. I've worked on some tough ones, and when are we going to stop putting money over our kids? Let's face it, that's what this amounts to. So please support Senator Morris, support Chairwoman Villio, and let's do the right thing. Thank you.
Rep. Bayham for the floor.
Colleagues, I have in my hand a sheet of paper with 4 relatives' names on it. I'm not going to say who they are, but 4 members of my family are in the ground or in a shelf right now due to drug addiction. I've never done a drug in my life. I never will. To say that drugs is meaningless or they don't have an impact on you or it's just other people, well, let me tell you that I hear the talk about, oh, look at the revenue. Look at how we need to help small business. Look at all of those things. I could tell you the one thing you don't want to look at. You don't want to look at the family member as they stand over that coffin and they close that lid. Worst moment in your life, and it's the worst moment in my life. Thank you. Please vote for this bill.
You have a right to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, Rep. Egan was so wrong when he's wrong about most everything he said, quite frankly, but he was particularly wrong when he stood up here, came up to you and told you something about, thought it was funny or whatever. I'm not sure what that comment meant he followed it up with, he's presenting an amendment, I guess, that he said was Mission Impossible. There's nothing funny about this topic. As I sit, I know y'all don't think I cry, but I do. I actually do have a heart for those who don't think I have one. As I sit and look at the Libranos, and the loss is immeasurable of their 41-year-old son, there is nothing funny about this topic. Kratom, which so many people don't know about. Everywhere I go, family gatherings, etc., I talk about Kratom, and everybody asks me, what is that? Nobody knows. Most people don't know. We know, and we have a chance to join the many countries who have banned it, some of the states that have banned it, some of the parishes that have banned it, and some of our municipalities have banned it, because it is a public risk, and it is causing greater drug addiction, it is causing psychosis, it is causing death, it is causing our babies to be born addicted. I beg you to stand with me. Thank you for voting down the amendments. And I beg you to stand with me and tell those people their loss was not in vain. Thank you so much, and thank you to the Libranos for being here.
Revealing was found to pass the bill. In favor, vote yea. Those opposed, vote nay. Madam Clerk, please vote machines. Members, vote machines. Members, vote your machines. Desatel, yea. Members, vote your machines. Members, are you through voting? Members, are you through voting? The clerk will close the machine. We have 86 yeas, 6 nays, and the bill finally passes. Revealing moves to reconsider the vote for finally pass. We have a motion on the table without objection, so ordered. Madam Clerk, please vote machine for co-authors. Members, vote your machine for co-authors. Members, are you through voting? Members, are you through voting? Desatel. The clerk will close the machine. We have 30 co-authors. Next bill.
Senate Bill 160 by Senator Kathy, provides relative to transportation means of students in public schools, provide relative to transportation network companies, requirements for transporting students, documentation of trips.
Schlegel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this bill allows school districts to contract with transportation networks and puts rigorous standards and requirements in order to protect children who will be using this.
You have a right to close.
I waive. Thank
Second
you.
was final pass the bill. May you favor vote yea. Those opposed vote nay. Madam Clerk, please vote machines. Members, vote your machines. Members.
Requirements in order to protect children.
That was horrible.
Schlegel moves to reconsider the vote. Show final last. Let a motion table without objection.
Sorry. Okay, sorry about that.
That was horrific to watch. The amount of wrongs that woman got, and it still went through.
Yeah. I mean, she literally sat up there and made up lies.
Yeah. And how is it that how is it that the grieving family members were able to sit there in the audience when nobody on the pro side was allowed to go?
That's all this was about grieving family members.
This is theatrical. This is totally what that was. She got so much shit wrong.
Yeah.
And everybody believed her.
Yeah. Well, and there was only 2 people that spoke for it. 2 people. And Egan, I mean, he was
100% correct.
But for her to come up there and tell him that he was wrong.
Yeah. And then even the representative MD or something, whatever her name was, she was absolutely correct.
Yeah. Like, it literally felt like we were watching a scripted hearing. You know, you got the people coming up, oh, well, have you talked to the addiction centers? What about the sheriffs?
Yeah.
I mean, this was obvious. But to sit there and think of all the phone calls and emails and stuff like that we did, it fell on deaf ears.
Like, I guarantee you, our pro calls, our pro emails way outweigh the negative ones. And we know for a fact that that our opposition group is spoon feeding them. Like, when she read off her bill, it was almost word for word what we know our opposition group will write.
Yep. I can't believe it. I mean, I was, I don't know. I was thinking it was going to be bad, but my thing is like when they get up and straight up lie, like you're lying. People should be held in contempt for that. I don't.
Yeah.
Like it's just not right. You shouldn't be able to get up there and lie just because you're. Even everybody can just get up there and lie. It's just not right.
Those people hold positions of power, and to get up there and lie like the way they did, like I'd be damned if they go to church on Sunday morning and ask for forgiveness. You know, that was horrible. Jody, Louisianans, I don't know. Y'all need a Hail Mary. Y'all seriously do. I don't know if the governor will veto this or not, but this has come to an end. This is way worse than what 2023 was.
Yeah. I mean, this was like, it was clearly planned. It was clearly, because everybody was just, except for 2 people. It's just, it's sad. It's sad too to think about the 300,000 Louisianans that are sitting there trying to live their life every day, just like a normal human being dealing with chronic pain. And none of those people that talk today gives a shit about them.
They
and
don't.
they're the ones that voted them in office.
You know, and for that other guy to get up there and talk about how he buried 4 family members because of the disease of addiction, Kratom saves you from the disease of addiction.
Yep.
It's why my kids didn't have to bury me or fucking charboil me in the damn urn, you know?
Yep. Yeah, this is bad. It's always bad when it comes to Louisiana, but I think this is the worst. This is the worst one just because of the straight up lies, the misinformation. For her to keep saying there's no synthetic,
yeah,
acting like everybody's just making shit up and lying. Boy, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, this was hard to watch.
There's
this was
absolutely
really hard.
7 OH products that are on the market right now are synthetic and or semi-synthetic.
They're not natural products.
Right. You know what? And the smoke shops are loving the revenue that they're getting from that because they are out there creating addictions. And
for them to sit there and act like the revenue, when he brought up the revenue, it's like, what about the revenue in y'all's pockets from the fucking treatment centers?
Right. Where was Morris?
Yeah.
Did he go cowered away somewhere? He had, the little video up there. She's so
dude,
damn
that lady
disrespectful.
is a villain.
Yeah,
like
that should
she
be her
got
last
up,
name.
Woo, she got up there just.
She is a disrespectful POS,
Yeah.
I
get like and that's another thing. Like I get that you're debating, and you feel strongly about something, but to lie and call other people liars is insane that somebody with power gets up there and does that. And it's sad.
She said at the last hearing, how little snide comments about you better work it out before then. You better work it out.
Yeah.
2 people got up there and worked it out and still was voted against.
I forgot that was her, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was her.
Yep. I feel bad. I feel horrible for everybody in Louisiana. I really do. I can't say that we didn't all try.
We did. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's time for the peaceful protest, y'all. Y'all need to organize that, do something. I will work my hardest to get down there and attend to it. But this has got to catch the media's attention because this is so wrong on so many levels.
Yeah, I don't even think it's the fact that she's uneducated. Like, I think that she knew exactly what she was doing. I think she knew exactly what she was doing. I just can't believe that. I just can't. Like, it's sickening to even know that stuff like that happens, that people can get up and just lie. Straight up lie. When she brought out the crocodile tears or
Yeah.
whatever, I was like, ah.
Yep.
I will say Egan was the only one that really,
Well, MD or whatever her name was, the other
yeah.
lady that looked like Barbara O'Neill, you know?
She does. I know. I
Yeah.
was thinking,
You know, she knows what's up. So did Rep Egan, you know? And it's like, what the?
it's just not right.
I know Aspie trips, you know, I try to work on my cussing, you know, since I got haters that watch me like fucking shit stains. But you know, this, I don't know what else to do for Louisiana. I can only carry it so far. I can't advocate for y'all. I can only do what I can on my end by getting the awareness out there, the advocacy out there, you know, but there's nothing else I can do. I'm not a constituent of the state of Louisiana. But I have been invested in this since 2023 when this shit started popping off.
With old Klein Peter.
Yeah.
I don't think that they, I mean, I want to say that they don't care, but I think they genuinely don't realize how many people they're hurting. You know, I really don't think they realize. Or, you know, I don't even know if some of them would even care. But, you know, it only takes 1 second for their life to change and they become a chronic pain patient. And let them deal with that. You know what I'm saying? It happens to us all one day. It's just so sad. I tell you what, if I was in Louisiana, if I was a Louisiana constituent, whew,
Oh, I know.
I'd be up there every day. I just living in the front of the courthouse trying to get people's attention.
Yeah.
Calling news stations. I don't know. I would do something.
Yeah, you Louisiana constituents got to do something between now and the time that freaking bill gets to the governor's desk. I don't know what the AKA is going to do now. I don't know.
I mean, if there's any way that there could be a peaceful protest held and actually come, like, man, you know, the numbers of people that show up to these things is so important. Like, if you could get a peaceful protest with a lot of people, I think it would make a big difference. You know, the governor walking in to sign the bill and sees that. Again, though, it's all politics. But I mean, you know, I don't know.
Like,
I wish
just
I could.
imagine all the Louisianans that had if there's over 325,000 Louisianans that consume kratom, they have no idea that their fate was just handed to them today.
Yep.
You're about to be a criminal. And no legit vendor will mail to an illegal state.
And then for them to even act like it's not a big deal, the whole possession thing.
Oh, I know.
It's only
20
100.
grams ain't nothing.
Yeah.
It ain't nothing.
Man, I don't know. You know, I don't know how those people sleep at night. But they act like they're the superheroes. Do
Yeah,
what?
their pockets are fat.
Oh, yeah.
They are being funded.
They're popping them Ambiens at night. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Having their glass of wine. I can't believe how much of a shit show that was. But yeah, I don't know when this goes. Was it August the 1st that's supposed to go into effect? Or was that? I think it's
I
August.
think it was
1st.
August 1st. But still, you know, from here on out, it will go ahead its way. Like, how was this bill so incredibly fast-tracked? And the KCPA that's in that state has just been sitting idle this whole time. It hasn't moved. Why and how was this bill so incredibly fast-tracked the way it has been? What happened? Money.
Money and grief. People know it.
Weaponized grief.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, they think they're doing the right thing. because they don't even look. And I mean, if that's your job is as a legislator is to look at all sides of things and make an educated decision, like the Egan guy.
Yeah. And he has an accent. He doesn't even seem like he's from Louisiana. He
I
seems
was
like he's
thinking that
from
same
England or
thing,
something.
or like Scotland or something.
Something, you know. This is just, God.
Yeah. I don't know, but I'm sorry for everybody in Louisiana.
I mean, since those 6 states have banned, there has not been a banned state since, you know, and actually, you know, we've helped stop actual state bans from happening just by, you know, giving our testimony on a public Zoom link.
Yeah.
This one reeks of like like a horrific BBL gone wrong or something like that, you know? It's like something is deeper.
Oh yeah, it's rooted pretty deep. Like it's rooted real deep. There's
Brandon,
people
yeah.
that have been.
He says our government is for sale. They were never going to listen to people. They got elected with only 25% of eligible voters actually voting. Y'all need to vote them out. I don't, you know, I know Mac was watching it while we were watching it. I don't know what's next.
Well, I tell you what, if I would make a list of every single one and just keep that list with me all the way until next time to vote and make sure I voted them out. Need to know when I can't take it out with me. So far as we know, it's August the 1st, but you know, the governor still has to sign it.
Yeah, it's got to go. The governor's got to sign it, and that's what I'm saying. The only thing y'all can hope for is a Hail Mary right now, whether or not that dude is gonna veto it. Like he got a million other things on his damn mind, like the damn murdered freaking people, dudes in prisons escaping. You know, got that shit going on. Then that freaking Annabelle Nottingham fiasco of that freaking plantation burning down. He had that going on.
What is this? Louisiana doesn't vote?
Oh, I don't know, Brandon. See, that's what I'm saying. I'm not a constituent of Louisiana. I know people have said it multiple times to me that they think that I live in Louisiana because I've been invested so long about this Louisiana stuff, you know, but I'm not, you know. Yeah, Texas is safe for now. For now. If y'all don't remember, you know, this is what I'm saying. I can't believe she's getting up there saying that there's no synthetic 7-OH. Where the hell? Who fed her that bullshit? You know, but the reason why Texas tried to ban all kratom was because of synthetic 7-OH. There is synthetic 7-OH. And I know that the gas stations are banking over there in Louisiana. Well, they're banking everywhere, you know, but I know they're over there banking. And the fact, who, like, man.
Samantha, I'm sure we'll start sharing his email address and stuff. And
yeah, well, I always wait. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
yeah.
Jen. I always wait till the AKA's next move comes out before, you know, because I don't want to go overboard or say something I'm not supposed to say.
Yeah.
You know, so I always wait till the AKA's next move. Man, there's gotta be a. I wonder if like the citizens of Louisiana can freaking sue all of them.
I would be just so, I'm just so, I just can't stand to see. I hate liars, but to get up there and lie and you're in public office is even worse. That's like the worst.
Oh man, that was such a roller coaster to watch too. Like I know that we were off screen, and I don't know if you could see me still on screen.
Dude, I was so mad. I'm like, I almost just walked away because I was like, man.
But I couldn't because it was such a shit show that it was a train wreck that you had to stay and watch.
Yeah, so right now, the governor, it will go to the governor's desk next, but Max should get word out to if they have any plans, if they have any plans on, or any, last ditch efforts, he'll post up. I can't imagine, Samantha. Sorry if I'm scared. I'm trying to still figure this little restream thingy out.
Yeah, so welcome to Restream, y'all. We were able to figure out how to stream it on our TikToks and our YouTube and our Facebook. I'm in Facebook freaking group jail and live jail on my main Facebook account, so I have to use my backup account. But we were able to figure all this out, We're doing our own thing. This is what you call advocacy and awareness. So welcome to advocacy and awareness.
Welcome to advocacy and awareness. Yeah, and you know what? What a way to kick it off with the shittiest of shit shows.
I know.
This is literally the shittiest of shit shows this year. Yeah, August the 1st. Yeah, dude, I like this restream. I'm still learning, but I like it. Man, I know that. I know, Samantha, I'm so sorry.
Man.
That's what I'm saying. Think about, I can't remember which one of them brought it up, but it's think about moms just sitting there trying to raise our kids without being stuck in the bed with chronic pain. Get out of here. I don't know. Maybe something good will happen. I cannot believe it was such a shit show. I mean, today was awful. And I don't know how often they meet, if they do every 2 years like everybody else. I don't know. I know it's horrible all the way around. But I do know that we tried.
Yeah. I mean,
but still ain't done. Still ain't done fighting.
No, still not done.
Yeah.
Still not done at all. I mean, like I said, I don't know how long after a bill passes does it head to the governor's desk. I'm sure the AKA will put up something here shortly.
And I'm sure it all has to do with who's putting it over there. You know what I'm saying? How much money's behind it.
Yeah.
Or who's sending it over. I wouldn't be surprised if Velio's running that sumbitch over the governor's office right now.
Right.
Oh, man. Get out of here. Yeah, she was a villain for real.
Yeah.
Man, I'm just so sorry, y'all.
I'm still in shock and awe.
I just keep thinking about everything. It's just horrible.
Even when the bills were going on, when the bills were happening simultaneously in Nebraska, the ban bill and the KCPA bill, they wound up coming to an agreement together, So how
for her to stand up and just dismiss that there is absolutely nothing but one thing, that's kratom and there's no synthetic, that, I'm just it was all planned and scripted for her to get up there and start off with that shit. They all had a goal in mind. Yeah, she's making fun of there's nothing funny.
And I'm telling you, our opposition group is behind this. I know that they are behind this. And they want to use this as leverage for when their kratom lawsuits come out, they could be like, Senator Morris was able to ban kratom in the state of Louisiana. Because the reason why, when they were going through the motions of this bill, he said their names, which I knew then and there that, yep, they're spoon feeding him this information That's exactly what our opposition group is doing.
Yeah, true. Yep. I don't know. It's just, it's sad.
The state of Louisiana is they are like 95% there to turn the entire state into Marshall Price cases.
Yep.
And Shana Brown cases.
I can't stand it too when they're like, well, it's illegal where it's coming from in the
No,
country.
I
And it's like,
know.
not anymore. It's not.
I
Not
know.
anymore. It's like they use out, and then for her, oh my God, I just keep thinking, I'm sorry, but she's like, the FDA just came out with another warning. No, they fucking didn't, dude. No, they did not.
And
I
it's
wish somebody
like,
would have been like, show me your proof. Show me where you're getting this information from.
like, do they even know why it was initially illegal in the state, in the countries that it's coming from? It's because of the opium and the
It's
right.
because of money.
Well, I
Yep.
know it was the rubber trees. It had nothing to do with public safety.
Yep.
And the reason why the 6 states currently have it banned is because the FDA said the DEA was going to schedule it. Then the DEA rescinded its notice of intent to schedule 2 months later. And then by then, because these 6 states did a knee-jerk reaction, it's banned. It's extremely hard to overturn a ban. Extremely hard. Look, me and Jennifer went to Arkansas in April to try to overturn that ban, in the name of Marshall motherfucking Price.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. Yeah, they didn't care anything about what the pro people are saying, period. Like, they literally just acted like those people were idiots.
It fell on deaf ears. Why? Because there's money stuffed in their damn ears.
Yep.
I know. None of us creative users out here doing crime. Watch how many people are going to die now. Yeah, I know. I freaking know.
It's just so, I don't know. I was hoping it would have went a whole lot better than it did today. I will say at least 2 people, they spoke up and made somewhat of a difference. I feel, but not much. It all fell on deaf ears.
And then the family who was sitting in the audience, he died by unaliving himself. He didn't die because of kratom. He just happened to be on kratom or going through kratom withdrawal. And we don't even know what kratom he had. Was it the whole leaf? Or was it the synthetic 7-OH that, magically appeared in 2023?
Well, and it's like, there's so many factors that can go into that too. It's like, was there issues beforehand? I don't know. I mean, you can't just, regardless, like, laws just shouldn't be based on grief. They should be based on science.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was only 2.
Yeah, there was only 2 representatives. And then the guy got up there talking about, do you smoke it?
Yeah.
I don't smoke kratom.
Man. I don't know. Yeah, she was hardcore.
All right, you ready to end this? Because now I got to go eat dinner.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm sorry, Louisiana, but yeah, pay attention. And of course, y'all know, Misty and I'll share whatever the AK wants to do next.
Uh-huh. We will.
But anyway, trying to have a good rest of your day, everybody.
Yep. Bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all.